Hello, hello. This is Prophetess X, and the Weeping Prophet is welcoming you in. We're going to be talking about a very weird and relevant topic, something that seems to be on every YouTube channel that I've seen in the last couple months, and that is alien disclosure, or what the heck. All right, so what do you think about these aliens? I want you to interact with me. Please leave comments. Please join me in the chat. We're going to take a look at the Watchers. We're going to take it from a biblical perspective, but we're also going to delve into what Enoch had to say. I have a few movie clips that we'll take a little look at, a look see. So please bear with me as we pull this together. Then we'll go into the live. You are welcome. Don't forget to like and subscribe, dear friend.
The story of the Watchers is one of mystery, power, and betrayal. These celestial beings, mentioned in the ancient Book of Enoch, were sent to guide humanity, but instead became part of its downfall. They shared forbidden knowledge that changed the course of history and wisdom, that brought both advancement and destruction. But why is their story hidden from us? Stay with us as we uncover the secrets of the Watchers, exploring their rebellion, their forbidden acts, and the ripple effects that might still be felt in our world. So who were the Watchers? According to the Book of Enoch, an ancient Jewish text from around 300 BC, the Watchers were no ordinary angels. They were a select group, chosen by God for a mission unlike any other, to oversee humanity in its earliest days. Their purpose was profound, yet delicate, to observe, guide, and protect the fragile human race as it took its first uncertain steps into existence. At this time, humanity was raw and untamed, barely scratching the surface of its potential. Life was simple but unpredictable, full of both beauty and struggle. Communities were forming, but survival often felt like a battle against the elements. In his wisdom, God saw fit to appoint the Watchers to this sacred task, not to interfere, but to quietly guide, ensuring humanity grew in harmony with divine principles. The Watchers were exceptional beings. They were angels of immense wisdom and power, chosen for their discipline and devotion. They were meant to act as guardians, an invisible line between the divine and mortal realms. From their vantage point in the heavens, they observed humanity's joys and sorrows, its perseverance and fragility. Humanity was not perfect, but it held a spark, an unpredictable, untamed potential that fascinated even the angels. But what happens when
Okay, so what we're seeing is in the book of Enoch, they're describing the Watchers as most holy ones that are set in place to silently guide humanity. Now, what we're going to see is this takes on another dimension in that the Watchers felt sorry for humanity who was struggling alone, cold and in the dark, unable to fend for themselves. It even takes on, in my opinion, a standpoint of that God is mean, God is angry at humanity. He's turned his back and left this defenseless race on this planet, unable to to do literally what God commanded, which was to take dominion and multiply. So the Watchers stepped in, and this is what they said the fall was about. Rather than um, admitting to the rebellion that happened in heaven, they try to twist it that instead they felt sorry for cold dark humanity, and taught them how to build a fire, and from the fire they taught them to then use metallurgy, and taught them how to heal using herbs and plants and witchcraft, and the technologies of heaven then were given to man, fulfilling the really idea about the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So this is the perspective that is my takeaway from the book of Enoch. So let's watch just a little bit more of this clip, and then we're going to look into what does the Bible say, because that to me is the standard. Thy word, O Lord, is forever fixed in the heavens. So what we abide by is what the Bible, what the scriptures say. And it's quite interesting. The watchers have a lot of depth to the meaning. So let's learn together. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you guys so much.
But what happens when those tasked with guiding humanity begin to question their own roles? What if their fascination turns into something forbidden? This is where the story of the Watchers takes a dramatic turn, one that would change not only the Watchers but the course of humanity forever. The Watchers didn't just watch, they acted, and their actions would shake the very fabric of creation. It began with curiosity, perhaps even admiration. Soon this admiration turned into something far more dangerous. The beauty of human life, the complexity of emotion, and yes, the allure of human women, proved too much for some of them. One angel, Samyaza, couldn't resist. He saw in humanity something extraordinary, something untamed yet filled with potential. But he knew the risks. This kind of contact with humanity was strictly forbidden. Still, he couldn't ignore his desires. So, he devised a plan. If he were to fall, he wouldn't fall alone. Samyaza rallied others, convincing them to take an oath of rebellion. 200 angels pledged to leave their heavenly posts, descending to earth to act on their desires, whatever the cost. And that's where everything changed. This was the beginning of something much larger, something that would echo through time. Stay with us, because the story of the Watchers is far from over. What they did wasn't just a betrayal, it might have been the spark of an entirely new chapter in the history of humanity. The Watchers didn't come to Earth empty-handed. They brought gifts, powerful, transformative knowledge that propelled humanity forward in ways we could have never imagined. But as history has shown, knowledge is a double-edged sword. What the Watchers gave us shaped civilization, but it also unleashed chaos. Let's start with Azazel. Among the 200 Watchers, his name stands out, and for good reason. Azazel introduced humanity to metallurgy, teaching us how to forge weapons from iron and bronze. This was a lesson in dominance. With weapons, humans no longer needed to rely on brute strength or sheer numbers. Power could now be wielded by those who controlled the tools of war. Battles became bloodier, and conflicts escalated as tribes fought for territory, resources, and revenge. Weapons brought power, and power bred violence. But Azazel didn't stop there. He also revealed the secrets of adornment. Jewelry, makeup, and other symbols of beauty became widespread.
So
What might
in the
seem
book of Daniel, we see that he is lying on his bed. He has a vision, and I'm just going to read Daniel 4:13. Um, As I lay in the vision of my head, I lay in bed, and behold, a watcher, a holy one, came down from heaven. Okay, so um, let me read from King James. I saw in the visions of my head upon my bed, and behold, a watcher, and holy one came down from heaven. Okay, so a messenger was sent to him. In other places, it even calls him a messenger, and we want to find out exactly who this messenger is. What is a watcher? All right, so let's go ahead and watch this next little clip. And we're going to see that not only did the watchers come and present the vision, or were presented in this vision, but they also issued forth a decree that a judgment would come upon Nebuchadnezzar, that his kingdom would be cut down, that the roots would be bound, and that he himself would wander in the field like an animal, being wet with dew, eating grass like a cow, until the time that he looked up and acknowledged the Most High God. It took 7 years for this judgment to be complete. But the interesting part, or should I say, one of the interesting parts, is that this was actually issued by the Watchers. Stick with me, guys.
What if I told you there are angels in the Bible that judge kings and even decide their fate? In the book of Daniel, King Nebuchadnezzar had a terrifying dream. He saw a watcher, a holy one, come down from heaven and declare a judgment: chop down the tree, leave only the stump. Let him live like a beast until he knows the Most High rules over all. Daniel revealed the truth: this was a divine sentence. The king would lose his sanity, live among animals, and eat grass, until he humbled himself before God. But who exactly are these mysterious watchers? Are they angels, or God himself? Some scholars say the watcher was the Son of God, carrying a message straight from the throne of heaven. Others believe it was an angelic order and known to most, sent only for moments of divine judgment.
Okay, I find it really interesting that in the beginning of Daniel, we see that there's a reference to the Watchers. And then in the following verse, we see that there is a reference to the Watchers, also referred to as the most holy ones. Okay, so we see that it was the Watchers who made a decision and set forth a decree on what would be the fate of Nebuchadnezzar, which was that for 7 years he'd wander the fields, eat on all fours, eating grass like a beast, until the day that he looked up and acknowledged the Most High. And that was the whole reason that it was done. But who are the Watchers? There's some speculation that there's groups of Watchers. Perhaps this is an office of the angelic order, and some of those of that order were those that rebelled against the Most High God and fell, along with Lucifer, still an angelic being but a fallen angel. So we'd also have then, now in current times, two groups of Watchers: those who remain loyal to God and those who fell. Sounds reasonable, and I believe that this is what the book of Enoch refers to.